In previous video tutorial, we successfully created sign request using payload create method, and we saw how it behaves in both the scenarios wherein the user signs the sign in request and then rejects the sign in request. Today let's make use of create and subscribe method and also subscribe to the payload event. So we have create and subscribe method here, which takes two arguments, the first one being the transaction template itself, and the second argument is a callback method. So this function gets invoked every time some platform asynchronously sends an update about the created payload. So let me call it as event. So the some platform keeps checking the user actions if the user has actually opened his some application and scanned the QR code, or he has rejected the sign-in request, or else he has accepted the sign-in request, and also keeps updating us about expiration time. Okay, so now let us see what's present inside this event data. So let me output that onto the console window, that is new payload event. So this event has a property called data, which has some information. Let's see what's present inside that. So this event dot data. So let me clear the screen and execute this script. So it outputs expiration time in seconds, also a welcome message. So if you wait for this expiration time in seconds gets updated, and every time it gets reduced. Once it reaches to 0, this payload expires and is probably removed from some platform. So let us even output whatever is present inside this constant payload, because we also need sign in request URL, right, which will be present inside this constant payload. So let's check that. Okay, we got a lot of data and most of it is present inside this constant payload. So what we are interested in is the URL, so that we can open up our XUMM app and scan it and interact with this payload request, which is present here. So what other information we have here? Sign in, no, it's false because user has not yet scanned and submitted his response to this sign in request. This is payload, which has expiration time in seconds, created time, destination, payment type, etc. Okay, just an overview of this output, you can check it yourself. So what we are interested in is this URL. You already probably know why we need this. So let me open up the browser and paste this. Now let me open up my phone. Remember I'm using another phone to shoot this. I'm handling everything in one hand, so the video is shaky, but you should do this yourself, so I don't think it's a problem. So scan the QR code here. So you have two choices here: accept this sign in request or else reject it. So as you can see, we have pre-populated amount here, that is 1 XRP. So you could reach out to this close button, which has this reject button here. I'll click that. So sign in request has been rejected. So let's get back to our code editor and see what happens. Let us look at the output here, because we have subscribed to this event. See, this opened is true, that is somebody opened this QR code and scanned it. So that response has been logged onto your console window. So signed property is false because we did not sign it, we rejected it. So you have all the details here. So this is what is output as new payload event. Okay, so what we need is, we need to get this data, that is signed is true or false. So if I'll use normal JavaScript here, object.key. So let me have that and pass this whole JSON object to it, that is object.keys. This is the syntax, by the way, standard syntax of JavaScript. So pass in your object, the whole object, the whole JSON output is present inside event.data present here. So feed it to object.keys dot index of pass in the key, which is the key name is signed, which is present here. So what does this do? So it goes into this event.data JSON object and finds if this key, which is signed, is actually present. If it's present, it returns the index position of this. So index starts from 0. Okay, so if the returned value is greater than -1, that means this index is actually present inside the output, which is present inside event.data. In that case, return whatever is present inside event.data, which is a JSON object, by the way. So this whole thing waits until the user interacts with the QR code. Either he rejects the signing request or else he just signs it. Okay, in both the cases it just returns the data. So let me output the payload. So let me change this payload to subscription. Okay, that makes more sense to me. So let me output the whole thing here first, so that I can show you where this payload URL is actually present. So once we check the output, we can go and fetch the URL from that output. Okay, so let me run this code now. We need not even interact with the QR code and all. We are just trying to fetch the payload URL, sign in request URL, which is present here. Okay, so how do you fetch this URL? Simple, subscription dot create dot next dot always. Your code editor itself suggests you all the properties present inside that object. I'm just showing you these same things inside this output window. So let me clear this. Also note that pushed is false because user has to explicitly interact with the sign-in request, that is the URL or else the QR code, and then only our application can get hold of user token, which is very unique to XUMM platform and our application itself. Using that user token, we can send the push notification. Okay, so now let me output if we could push the sign-in request or not. So where that information is present, that is subscription.created.pushed. I'll use ternary operator here. So if this whole thing push subscription.created.pushed is true, then output S, or else if it's false, output no. So this is simple ternary operation. Okay, let me clear the screen here and let's rerun our script. This time I'll accept the sign-in request and I'll show the response in 3 windows. This terminal window you're seeing here, and on this sign-in request URL, and on our actual mobile device which I use to sign the sign-in request. Okay, so let me paste this here. So we have the QR code. This is from our XUMM app we have registered. So let me bring up my device And I'm very sorry for this shaky video. I'm shooting this in single hand, and as of this video we don't have option to disable the security and do the screencasting of our mobile phone device itself. So let me enter the security code there, and let me reduce the size of this browser window and also show you the terminal output and my mobile screen here. Okay, so once I complete this security check, look at these three screens. Once the transaction is completed, it shows on the mobile device and on this sign in request URL and on your terminal, of course, and inside your XUMM developer dashboard payload section as well. So now what you need to look at is this signed property. If it's actually true, we can fetch user token from it. So we need to first check if user has signed it or has rejected it. So if signed is true, that means the signed request has been signed. If it's false, then the signed request has been rejected. So first we need to check that. So we need to wait until this subscription is actually resolved. Okay, once that's resolved, this entire output you are seeing on your terminal will be present inside resolved data. Okay, once this subscription method gets completely resolved. So I'll check if this resolved data dot signed property, which is present here. So I'll check first for rejected condition. So resolved data dot signed, if it's equal to false, that means user rejected the signed request. Okay, so inside this block of code you could write something to handle the situation, but in my case I'll just output a message onto the terminal, that is the signed request was rejected. Simple. You could write some code to handle such situation. Else, if the control is executing this section, that means resolved data dot signed is actually true. That means I'll first output the message onto the terminal, that is the signed request was signed. Next, I'll take a constant and let us resolve this. Let's formulate user token here using payload underscore UUID v4. So I'll take a constant called result, and we will wait. A child thread will be formed once again here. So I'll be making use of our SDK instance. So before that, check this output here in the terminal window. Inside this output, we have something called payload underscore UUID v4. This is what we need to get the user token. Okay, so let us grab the SDK instance. It has a property called payload, which has a method called get. We need to pass in this payload underscore UUID v4 to it, so which is present inside this resolve data dot, of course, payload underscore UUID v4. So once this gets resolved, we will get user token. Let me output that onto the console window as well. So console.log user token. So I'll show you what is present inside this result, the entire thing. Once we know it, we can easily access the user token inside that output. So let me rerun this script. So grab this URL, sign request URL. Remember, user has to explicitly sign this the first time. Once he signs it, we can get user token. Once we get the user token, we can actually push the sign-in request directly to his XUMM application inside his phone. Okay, so let me sign this. Okay, let me show you all the three screens here once again. And we signed it. Okay, let's check the terminal here, the output on the terminal inside your code editor. We have a lot of output here. So this is what we need to check, that is after the sign request was signed. Okay, so where is user token? Okay, below that we have user token and the output, the entire result, which also has response, transaction ID. Also note that we are on testnet and we are using testnet host here. You will know why I showed you all these things in next video tutorial. Just know that we are on testnet. So we need to grab this issued underscore user underscore token. So you already know how to do that. So result dot application. So this entire thing dot application, the entire thing is present inside result dot application would fetch this block inside which we have issued underscore user underscore token. Okay, that's it. That's how we get user token, which is very important to send the sign-in request as push notification to your user. So let me rerun this script, and again I need to grab my phone, and in one hand I need to scan the QR code and show you the output. Please follow along, just don't watch this video, follow along, create your own QR codes and then scan using your phone, some application present inside your phone. Okay, install the application guys, don't delay it. Okay, so I'll press this scan icon and sign this request. So I entered the security code here. Let me show the phone screen once again. So within few seconds the transaction will be completed. It's on testnet intentionally as of now. In next video tutorial I'll show how to send this transaction, sign this and send the transaction on mainnet. Okay, so we get this output here. Okay, so signed is true. Let me comment this out. So okay, concentrate on this. After the sign request was signed, you get user token here. So grab that and write down on a piece of paper, or better paste it inside your notepad or some text editors like this. And now let's modify the transaction template to include this user token. But remember, user token is specific to some platform and not specified inside XRP Ledger Transaction Specifications. Okay, so whatever is specified inside XRP Ledger Transaction Specifications, we need to put that inside this block of code with key txjson. Okay, so whatever is outside this block is specific to some platform. You could include a lot of things like metadata and all. User token is one such thing which is specific to some platform, which sends push notification, which sends sign request as push notification. Okay, so all the XRP Ledger Transaction Specifications and details should go inside this block, that is txjson block. Okay, now this is our user token. So that's it, I guess. Let me clear the terminal here, output terminal, and then rerun our script. Now it gets exciting. So let me show you my screen. I get the push notification here. Click on that. So you have here the sign in request. I can accept or reject it. In this case, I'll simply accept it. This is very convenient to send a sign in request as push notification directly to the app on your phone. Okay, so the user, that's me, signed the sign request successfully, and you can see that on your screen. If this pushed still shows no, that means user might have revoked the permission. In that case, you need to send the sign in URL or else the QR code once again to the end user, and he or she needs to authenticate it or sign it once again, so that from next time onwards you can send the sign request as push notification after grabbing fresh user token. Okay, these user tokens are unique to the platform and to your XUMM application. Okay, so that's it. In our next video tutorial, I'll be showing you how somebody can trick the payment to you. So we could avoid such things by checking the transaction details and the balance on the live ledger. So stay subscribed to our YouTube channel. Thank you.